Welcome to the Comedic Minds page here on YouTube. Make sure you check out the Free What blog. We're going to get into some headlines, okay? And we're going to talk about UFOs today and end-time prophecy reflections. Okay, just thoughts that I have about just things going on. Make sure you check out the links that I'll leave in the description. And we're going to get right into it. So one of the prophecy is something the Jesuit order of the Illuminati is conditioning into society today. One of the earliest known languages known to man is Tamil. And in this translation, we can find the word, in terms of prophecy, we can see that the word Hesi, the suffix would be Hesi. Hesi is translated to hazy in Tamil, which kind of sounds like hazy, so something being unclear. And how many times have we seen many prophets in his story, many prophets have come and gone and failed the people. This is what we have to keep in mind. Okay, so looking at the book of Revelation, revealing, regarding the Bible, by, meaning to, BLE, meaning read, and end times, okay? Revelation and prophetic end times. We know that we are in a time where many people reference the Bible. Read to. You must read to, I guess, to understand. There's double meaning. So let's get right into this. A Revelation and prophetic end times. So we have the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, the Wikipedia image here. We have the from left to right, we have the horse here representing death, the black horse here representing famine. We have the red horse of war and the white horse of conquest. And then we have the lamb is at the top. Let's see that symbology. So looking at the Latin word really, revi, dream, reveal, means reveal, veil, or, action, which equals action. Okay, so this is Latin to English translation. And so we can get the words really, dream, reveal, or action. Okay, so dream was the big word that I see here. And of course, when we're dealing with the book of Revelation, which sums to 49 in numerology, and we have also Antichrist, which sums to 49 in the book of Revelation. So let's take a look at Revelations chapter 6. Revelations chapter 6. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see." Chapter 2. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Verse 3. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And this is, of course, the King James Version we're reading. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there has given unto him a great sword. Verse 5. I keep looking at his chapters. I need to read it more. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances on his head. Verse 6. And I heard a voice in the midst of 4 beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou art hurt not the oil and the wine. Verse 7, and when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the 4th part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and the beasts of the earth. Okay, and he had opened the 5th seal, and I saw the altar, the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. Verse 10, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? Verse 11, and the white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they are should be fulfilled. And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as of blood. Okay, so have we not been seeing the blood red moons? Have we not been seeing the massive earthquakes that have been taking place across the planet? The uptick in earthquakes, 5.0, 5s and 4s are very common now. 6s are starting to become common. Devastating tragedies beginning to unfold here on the planet. And the stars of the heaven fell into earth, even as the fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven, the mighty wind would be the magnetic north of Hercolibus pointing towards the planet Earth, right? And then that rapid shift would cause, massive winds, the hour of the pole shift, if that's what we're talking about, a physical pole shift. So verse 14, and the heaven departed as a scroll when it rolled together. We're talking about the heavens departing. And every mountain and island moved out of their places. Okay, so we talk about how do mountains form, right? These are geological events that take place suddenly and rapidly. It's not a continental drift, it's a continental rip. Okay, and it takes something to occur for that to happen. Verse 15, and the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. Okay, so they want to make you think wealthy people are, fly these rockets and they can leave Earth. There's a strong amount of evidence that we live in actually a firmament, a flat plane. And of course, you have people who, flat earthers, round earthers. Everybody's got different views. But at the end of the day, I don't believe that they're going to be able to escape judgment. Those who have ruined humanity, destroyed a lot of things, and oppressed God's people. Okay, because black people, melanated people, we've been placed towards the bottom. We've been placed towards the bottom, and I believe that polarity has to change at some point. Now, I'm a person that actually believes that everyone should have sustenance, right? I should be able to afford to get my health care. I should be able to afford to get my dental care. I should be able to afford to, if I have a major repair to my vehicle, I should be able to get it fixed. If I need a quality vehicle to drive, I should be able to have that without it breaking the bank, right? If I'm in need of basic things, I should be able to receive them in a fair, just society. So I'm not one of those people that, I want to see one person on top, another person at the bottom. That's not what I'm saying or trying to interpret. Let's continue with the verse. And the heaven departed as a scroll. Okay, we read that. So let's go to 15. We read 15. Let's go to 16. And said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who shall be able to stand? Right? So powerful words there from Revelation chapter 6, where 6 is a number of communication. So revealing a dream, right? And I believe this dream is what the Jesuit order, has in play, these sequence of events and things. I do believe that you get the energy you put out when it comes to the things happening today. In some cases, and I'm going to get into some of those news stories in regards to, once again, how the original people, the foundational Black American descendants of slaves, are treated in this modern day. And, of course, the fight that we have going on with, reparations. I still think, that they're coming in with new currency. So it's going to be interesting to see if they do pay it, how would that be paid. But conscious community is the next subject we're going to talk about. So the definition of conscious in 1600th century is knowing or privy to. Paragraph 1 is that source, but consciousness means a knowing, right? For everyone, consciousness has a different meaning. Your definition of consciousness could be, and you have a lot of knowledge, or you're aware of your environment. I would say consciousness has a lot to do with your 5 senses. Okay, and also using those 5 senses, right? Being aware of your environment. If I had to say what consciousness it means to me, unfortunately, we have the CC33 when it comes to this consciousness community. Okay, so obviously there's going to be agents. There's going to be people who are going to come in and make conscious people, or quote unquote woke people, look like, woke people are crazy. The psychopaths. They're going to come in and say all these crazy things. I did this in front of some, underaged, you know what I'm saying? You can kind of figure out what I'm going to say next. I did this, I did that. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna come in and say things that are irrational and make people who are seeking consciousness or information about certain things make us seem crazy, right? It's nothing new, right? This is something that's always been done. Okay, so the definition of conscious is knowing or privy, according to this etymology online. Many prophets have come and gone in the Black conscious community. The English translation of the Latin word conscio means I agreed, and inscius translates to unconscious. Okay, ois translates to egg. So when you look at the word conscious, you essentially have agreed to clear the conscious thought of already knowing. The anatomy of true consciousness is to become a lifelong student and to continue to grow. So when you really, I believe, have reached a really high level of consciousness, you realize that I don't know anything, right? Some people kind of deify themselves, and deifying yourself, it kind of opens you up to fault. It opens you up to the reality that you might not be as aware as you think, right? So clearing those thoughts and always being a student is gonna really help you elevate, and it also checks the ego, okay? Because that's a problem too. I see on what a lot of quote unquote conscious leaders, the ego is hazing out it's hazing out there, or fogging the thought. And many Bible thumpers today. So let's get into back to the Bible. Many Bible thumpers and Serapis Christus Jesus believers won't tell you that the coming Christ or any other figure will not be what he seems. And we're going to look at numerology further for this insight, and talk about these spy balloons, which is a lie. Okay, and I covered that on the previous article. Now, numerology. Of course, this is a Pythagorean numerology chart. Pythagoras studied from the house of Ptah. That is the etymology of his name. Removing some of these vowels, we can see that. Make sure you Google search for that reference on that. There's a good article post on that. But let's, looking at this chart, right, we can see the letters A through Z, and each letter is linked to the letter in the alphabet, with S having an exception. So S can be the 10th letter of the alphabet, or it can be 1. It can be 10 or 1, you can count that. And if you want to use the reference to the one thing that's not really talked about much is the K can also be referenced as a master number, so it could be referenced as 11 or 2. Okay, if we're going to go, if we want to do that. But I think in Pythagorean it's just the S exception, but that's how you can look at K as well. And even V, we're talking about master numbers, even C. Wait a minute, no, not C. V, 22nd letter of the alphabet, so it can be master number 22, so, and 4, right? So it's just something to look at. It doesn't mean necessarily, either or. So in numerology, New World Order sums to 75, so does Order Out of Chaos. Spy balloons reflects 57, okay? Chinese spy balloon equals 85. UFO shut down over Alaska equals 85. Blue beam equals 58. Okay, so Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, the guy that, the whole scamdemic thing, that sums to, his last name sums to 27. Alien invasion sums to 207. Okay, central bank digital currency sums to 270. New Age religion equals 72, reflecting these numbers, and Revelation equals 49. Antichrist equals 49. So I believe that maybe they're going to bring in a New Age religion with some type of possibly advanced hologram, some advanced technology, or the person that's some Christ figure or something like that. And it's going to be a big deception. Okay, it's to enslave people. Okay, so, this is the person coming back after all of this chaos is created, right? So he comes, they create all this chaos or alien invasion, and then this guy comes in as some type of savior, some type of hope, and then people feel at ease and they give up everything for this figure, right? And then Nibiru comes, right? Then the pole shift happens. Once people realize the deception. But anyways, we'll see. So looking at these number sets again, it looks like we're being set up for an alien invasion using Project Bluebeam, and then a central bank digital currency, one world religion, one world currency, ushering in the New World Order. Okay. We're going to go over some news articles. UFOs has finally gone mainstream. The UFO community is not thrilled. It's a shame, said one UFO researcher of the recent shoot downs over UFOs over North America. Interesting enough, it's a shame sums to 95, and so does Revelation. Okay, so once again, pointing back to that the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right? A lot of people talking about food shortages. A lot of people, are talking about World War III, which could be something else that could be thrown in there. I mean, Albert Pike, the Freemason, mentioned about World War III. So The President of the United States just addressed the American people on UFOs, but it wasn't the extraterrestrial revelation true believers have been waiting for. The decades of remarkable fringes, unidentified aerial phenomenon are finally major mainstream news. But the downing of the Chinese spy balloon and 3 other likely benign objects is an anticlimax for many interested in UFOs who had hoped for something a little less terrestrial. Okay. Many in the UFO community, which ranges from science-minded investigators to faith-based believers, have been hoping recently moves in Washington meant the government was finally getting ready to spill the beans on everything it has collected over the decades on unexplained aerial phenomena, even if that didn't include evidence of extraterrestrial life. Okay, so this is from NBC News. And I just think that basically they want us to look up in the skies and just kind of getting us kind of ready for this, it looks like, as they try to bring in this New World Order. So high excess mortality rates in Cypress continue. So excess mortality rates stood at 19% above the expected average in Cyprus for December 2022 in the Europe. So we're having these excess deaths, very abnormal. Okay, this is the Cypress Mail. Very abnormal excess deaths since the vaccine rollout. And be interesting to see how this plays out. I know today I went out and saw like 2 different ambulances going almost every time I drove. So over in the UK, as the NHS deals with intense winter pressures, more than 100 people have died in Nottinghamshire than would be expected in the last 4 weeks, new figures show. There were over 600 excess deaths in doctors during the first years of the CV-19 pandemic. Physicians had a much lower excess mortality than the general population. So in the early months of 2020, the doctors were left responsible to treat little-known virus that prompted a worldwide pandemic. That was the worst the world had ever seen, risking their lives in the process. Okay, during the study time frame from March 2020 to December 2021, 622 more physicians died than expected, according to the recently released study. Okay, so that's not good. Okay, and this is all coming out now, of course. Suspected boiler explosion at Warren Coke plant investigated. Fire department urges public to stay away from the area. It looks like Ohio is getting pelted right now, and we want to keep our thoughts and positive energy and vibes to those families. And we never wish to anybody to have to go through anything like this. Okay. And this article is from WKYC Studios. Workers' pay globally hasn't kept up with inflation, so we're going to talk about inflation news and how there's been a decline in purchasing power, which could reverse this year. Prices rise more slowly. So this is an ongoing issue that I've noticed in regards to the economic outlook and how we've seen a record number of profits for major corporations, but just not keeping the regular person. If you're receiving all of these excess profits, why can't the regular person get some of those profits as well? This is what we talk about, picking up the little guy, right? And being able to overcome these issues so people can prosper. Okay. And of course, when this is happening to other races, non-melanated people, okay, like they can kind of weather the storm a little bit better for the most part. This is not to say they don't struggle, but at the end of the day, there is, We know what it is. We know what it is. Okay. And again, the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Comes back to these. This is their playbook, right? We come back to this book of Revelation of the Antichrist. So Revelation 6 tells a book of a scroll in God's hand that is sealed with 7 seals. The Lamb of God, Lion of Judah, opens the first 4 of the 7 seals, which summons 4 beings that ride out, on the 4 horses, on white, red, black, and pale. In John's Revelation, the first horseman rides a white horse, carries a bow, and is given a crown as a figure of conquest, perhaps invoking pestilence, Christ, or the Antichrist. The second carries a sword that rides a red horse as the creator of civil war, conflict, and strife. And of course, the black horse represents famine, and the 4th final horse, the pale horse, upon it rides death, accompanied by Hades. Okay, so how many times we hear people say we are really living in these end times? Jesus is going to return. He's our Savior. He's going to return, and everything's going to be all right. Okay, and of course, this was used back in slavery times to indoctrinate the slaves, to tell them that they were sinful, right? And these Freemasons branched off into several different denominations. If you look at the Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witness organization, these Illuminati families branched off and created these several different religions. As a form of indoctrination and a form of control. And you see the churches today; they're packed, right? They're packed. There's a lot of people loaded up in the church. And it's setting them up for the okie doke. The story behind the fiery Ohio train wreck only gets worse. So from lobbying to remove brake safety regulations to cutting staffing numbers, the depth of Norfolk Southern's responsibility for the ecological catastrophe is getting clearer by the day. Right, Mark Grunberg and John Wojcik. So lots of bad stories coming out from this. It looks bad, yes. But I guess you have to be on the ground to really understand this, but you definitely have videos out there of people, seeing the sheen of chemicals on the top of the water. Anybody near that area should be wearing a mask or something. Really, if you can get out of there, you'd have to right now just hunker down and only leave if you need to avoid that breathing that stuff in. The controlled burn of toxic chemicals in East Palestine filled the air as the residents breathed and covered the waters around the town and soil too with chemicals. Dead fish are floating in the creeks, and frightening smells linger. So the story unfolding here is shot through the corporate greed lens. That's what we talk about, corporate greed being a major problem in the Western world, North America. And of course, when I speak about reparations and I speak about wealth inequality, income inequality, all of these things that we know is a fact. I'm looking at analyzing these, larger companies that have, are greedy. And they specifically when it comes to melanated people, it's very hard for us to gain footing, in a lot of ways. But like I said, what goes around comes around. And when there is workplace discrimination, when there is a failure to address a systemic issue, these things either get better or they. English professor in Florida says university is reviewing his employment following a complaint over racial injustice. And this dovetails nice into what I'm going into next. An English professor at Florida, of course we know how, it's been in Florida historically for melanated, aka black people. Palm Beach Atlantic University says his job is under review after his employer told him they received a complaint he was indoctrinating students. The racial justice unit is what got me in hot water, Sam Joko told CNN. So with melanated people, once again, we can't speak up against these different things, or, be able to, it's not about, white guilt. It's more so like, it's about just, once again, being conscious, right? Being aware of black history is it's a way of beginning to make amends and say, what can society as a whole do to lift black people up? A lot of our people just, like I said, have dealt with systemic issues that, let's say, their parents were not, it wasn't a healthy home that they grew up in, but that person's parents, it wasn't healthy or whatnot. So when those issues happen, we have to understand that, how we can evolve and how we can grow from it. So they needed to talk to him privately, and the two told him his contract renewal for the next year would be on hold as they investigated materials used in the racial justice unit, he said. Joe Eckel was given a letter from the university which he shared with CNN, informing him a decision about his employment would be made by March 15th. They told me they had concerns that I was indoctrinating students. That was the exact word they used, indoctrinating. Joe Eckel said, I had no idea this was coming. Okay, so Joko said his conversation with his employers indicated the investigation was prompted by a complaint from a parent. Okay, so, this is the challenge, and this is what's happening when it comes to Black history. So now we're gonna go over all of the states. I'm just gonna name the states. It's a lot of them that are moving against Black history, and this is a BAT article banning Black history. And this is written by Lee Anna Jackson, edited by Wendy L. Wilson. And yeah, it's a long article. So Alabama, they have a ban in progress. Okay, Republican State Representative Ed Oliver halted a bill that would require a semester-long African American history course to be included in public school curriculum for children K through 12. Okay, so we're seeing this rise, against melanated people. Of course, we can go over to Wisconsin, West Virginia bans, Washington, Utah, Texas, Tennessee, South Carolina, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, PA, so Oklahoma, Ohio, New Hampshire, Montana, Missouri, Michigan, Louisiana, that's a surprise, Kentucky, Iowa, Idaho, Georgia, that's a surprise, Florida, Arkansas. Okay, so it's definitely happening, and that's the problem is with critical race theory. If we just read a little bit from this, it just says, let's talk about it. So I'll read these two paragraphs and begin to wrap this up. So in an executive order, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders characterizes critical race theory as antithetical to the traditional American values of neutrality, equality, and fairness. CRT, it says, emphasizes skin color as a person's primary characteristic. thereby resurrecting segregationist values, which America has fought so hard to reject. But of course, as a parent, if you like to teach your children about African American contributions, the state's government gives you permission as if you needed it. So, but really, though, a part of the history that the state wants to keep hidden includes the Elaine massacre on September the 30th, 1919, which is known as one of the bloodiest race riots in the U.S. It started with some 100 African Americans, mostly sharecroppers, met at the Progressive Farmers and Household Union to discuss getting better pay for their cotton sales. As a result, about 200 black people were killed by white mobs over the course of several days. U.S. troops were eventually called in, and the mob dispersed on October the 2nd. So, that's how it's gone. Okay, and we can see this with the recent Colorado Farmers event. Okay, so this is just a fight. It's a fight that all it's going to do is ignite the desire to want to know more, about Black history. But of course, I guess if it's, if you're non-melanated, you may not want to feel white guilt, or not necessarily white, but any other race. You might not want to feel that guilt of what took place. However, it all it's going to do is spawn curiosity. So to make, I haven't really looked at the curriculum in regards to critical race theory, but I'm quite sure so the reparation movement is gaining movement. Some good news, but major challenges remain. Okay, so the summer could be a historic one. Okay, and this photo right here, don't want to forget about these good people here. So experts in Mills College at Northeastern University's Black Reparation Project say there is still significant barriers to reparations becoming more widely adopted, and including active political efforts to limit or silence conversations around Black history in race states, in states like Florida. Okay, and this is by Cody Mello Clean. The summer could be a historic one. Final proposals for California's first of its kind statewide reparations program will be submitted by July, kickstarting the legislative process of what could be a monumental shift in the lives of Black Americans across the country. Reparations, which include a broad array of policies, payments, and efforts to address the historic and ongoing impact of systemic racism on African Americans, have never been more at the forefront of the conversation in the U.S. But even as efforts gain momentum in the states like California, communities like Evanston, Illinois, significant hurdles still remain. Okay, so one of the biggest roadblocks for reparations is the lack of understanding about what reparations are and what they're designed to do, says experts at Black Reparations Project, based in Mills College at Northeastern University. Okay, so they're holding a virtual Black Reparations Conference on February 24th. So that might be something people can be tuned into. And going back to my article, so I know this is not about UFOs, but I'm going to actually go over something that I did recently, which is the history of reparations paid in America. And I believe the lady, the Melanated Woman by Belinda Royal, may hold some answers to reparations, as she was the one that petitioned the Massachusetts legislature. Okay, and they eventually granted her a pension of £15 a year, which she was paid until she died in 1790. Okay, that was paid to her. And of course, this was one of the earliest examples of reparations in the United States. And she was an enslaved African American woman born in Ghana, so from another state, and received reparations. Sorry, not another state, but another country, and she received reparations. and I don't think that she declared her status, but in the late, so she was an enslaved African American woman born in Ghana, and in the late 18th century, and brought to the British colony of Massachusetts as a child. So she was owned by the royal family, who were wealthy enslavers, prominent figures in colonial society. So when we're talking about these reparations and why they're so important, we're talking about the fact that there's people still benefiting from the generational wealth that was created, and the fact that there's to have centuries to understand how to use money, how to use it to your benefit, and how to grow money. And these concepts were taught to you, and for generations, for centuries. You're going to be pretty good, right, at managing those funds and being able to grow them, and also creating other opportunities. But then some people say, well, I don't get any generational wealth. My family doesn't have generational wealth. Well, at the same time, you also get some of the rights and privileges, right, that many melanated people just do not receive. So once again, we talk about the statistics. We know that Black Americans represent 40% of the homeless, and in a country that their ancestors helped build. And reparations would probably stop some of the, if we're going to go into the spirit realm, we're going to probably stop some of the judgments that are happening right now. Okay. And I believe that having happy, healthy adults will tip the scales in a favor, and to be able to say, we made a difference. Our generation made a difference in Black people's lives, right? That's what we want to be able to say. Okay, and that difference will mean everything. Will mean everything for the legacy of those who can make a difference. Okay, so and don't think that it's gonna be, I'm gonna get taxed more. Okay. So let's say, you get taxed more. Okay, well, now where you work, business is going up because people are spending money. Money's flowing, and more money is flowing now. Right? It's like that's about oh my goodness. You don't have as much crime taking place, right? So you don't need as many police on the street. Now more money, less money, or more money can be paid to the officers that do work and that are good officers or good paramedics or whatever. It's gonna benefit everybody. Everything I've looked at is gonna benefit everybody. Society just gets better in general. Okay. So, anyways, I have more about this later. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Peace.
Keep that in. I'm the man, all in high demand. I do what they can, you do what you can. I got hella plans, breaking rubber bands. We can't get along, and I overstand. I do. Skinny steady popping like the for the dollars. I'm too focused on the commas, and you always with the drama. Always got a problem, but it's never an issue. Way too blessed and stressed, using money like tissue. Tears of joy, every night a celebration. Hey, go deck for my dedication. I just might obliterate 2021. 2020 pandemic still going dumb. My heart been through so much shit, that bit almost numb. Still I snap on every song, so I don't snap on anyone. Go so hard I break a thumb, broke a leg in their ass. Got my foot on the gas, right hand on that. I'm the fucking man, all in high demand. I do what they can, you do what you can. I got hella plans, breaking rubber bands. We can't get along, y'all.